All right. Sorry, I just sniffed. Hi, I'm Beck Lane, and this is Catalysting Company. Catalysting Company, we're catalysts in each other's lives as well as our own, and we do the things. So behind me is a painting I've been working on, and I think I've forgotten this girl's name, but she's part of the William Bullard collection of photographs I've been working on for about a year now, I guess. Not totally for a year. I've been doing a lot of other things, but she's part of this collection, and I'm hoping we get to do something with it. Something more than just put it in my little storage area. Right now, as you can see, I've actually been kind of frustrated and bored with her, to tell you the truth. So I decided to pull her out and not pull her out, but actually work on her. I did get bored, but I also got sad. I get sad a lot. And so I haven't been doing a lot of work for the past week. It's January something or other, and I just haven't been in the mood. And I don't mention it for feel bad for me. It's just I've noticed that a lot of people are like, ugh, just ugh. So I pulled her out, and I figured I would tackle a portion of the painting that, just like in any other painting, it just is daunting and exhausting, and it just drives me away. And that's until I've got it done. Until I've gotten it done, then I'm not driven away any longer. But it's the details I just find a little overwhelming, and so I put. And I don't always mean tiny details. It's just like any detail in a painting. Kind of lately has been just driving a wedge between the painter of me and the painter in me and the act of painting. That's been going on for a little while. So what I'm trying to do is fight the urge to sit in a chair and zone out again. And so, with that in mind, I turned on the camera too, because then I have to be held accountable, or so I think. That is how the thinking goes. Now, I watched one thing I've been thinking about today is I watched a documentary on PBS about the painter Edward Hopper, and I'm pretty familiar with Edward Hopper because I grew up on Cape Cod, and one of his painting studios was in Truro on Cape Cod. And in fact, I really never realized it, or maybe I did and I just totally forgot. I used to walk in Truro a lot, especially with Bugsy, my dog who's gone. He and I would walk the same roads that Hopper's studio was on, and I would look at his roof and I'd go, that's so charming. And then next door was this modern monstrosity that the town was fighting, or people in town were fighting, having built, because it had nothing to do with Hopper. And a lot of people in town were invested in, or are invested in, holding some portion of history, and also the environment that drove people to come to the Cape anyway. People used to go to the Cape for the light and the scent of the water, and it just the whole atmosphere is magical. It was pretty magical. People would come from New York and all around to experience Cape Cod, and then people moved there, out-of-towners moved to the Cape and thought, well, yes, I moved here because it's delightful and charming and I get a lot from it, but now it's time to put up a ginormous house. So, let me, wait a minute, be right back. So I was probably reminded again today that I used to walk by that house and I would just stare at it. Really, really lovely house, really lovely studio, and now, you know, looking at this documentary, I'm thinking, that's the studio I want. That's the studio. It's perfection. Now in this, but I actually wanted to talk about the documentary a little bit, because in the documentary, some of the speakers had addressed an issue in his work that I had seen and I had recognized, but I had also not been able to articulate. His main subject, although we go, oh, it's quaint pictures of New England and Cape Cod, or quaint pictures of New York and buildings, or, you know, some of the pieces, the landscapes that he did as he traveled across country with his poor wife, they're really about isolation. He's not even addressing it. He's acknowledging isolation. So I'm watching this documentary, and the more I learned about Hopper, the more I felt a kinship. Because the work I do, in actually having a word for it, I started to not understand, because I already knew this, but I just didn't have the language for it. I realized that my work is about isolation. It's about isolated individuals, whether they are isolated, physically isolated, mentally isolated, emotionally isolated, isolated within a community, isolated through culture. The figures that I do aren't about who is pretty and who is cute, but it really is about isolation. I'm so glad to finally have a definition for it. You know, it's something that you know, but you don't know until somebody else coins a term. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm doing here. I've always known, in a way, that the work I do is, the figures and the portraits that I do, it's about isolation. And it's about, I've always said, though, that it's about making people who aren't traditionally seen in galleries or wherever art is held, people who aren't seen, having them seen, making them seen, and making them the focal point. But in actuality, it's also about the isolation that they faced. And I've also realized that in all the paintings of the portrait painting and the figures, that I'm creating relationships and creating a culture and a community for myself. I think most artists do that in a way, but it's something I've always known. I just haven't talked about, I don't think. I mean, as we've learned over time, you know, if you've been following my dumb videos, I don't really hang out much. I don't go out much. I don't have friends come over. I don't go to dinner parties. I don't go out. Very much like Alice Neal, I just paint. This is what I do. This is who I am. And so I have been creating my own little cast of characters. And in many ways expressing the isolation that I feel all the time and have for most of my life, most of my 60 years, being on the outside and being fringe. And this isn't just me, I'm not even complaining, I'm just stating something that's pretty obvious. But we've talked about intent. As I go back and forth from the palette to here, we've talked about intent many, many times over the last 10 years, and knowing why, having a clear reasoning as to why you do what you do, or why you're creating one piece of work or several, or a body of work. And I think in hearing someone, even Hopper himself, say that it is about isolation, or kind of address it, it really lifted me today. It's like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in being isolated. I'm not the only one who just doesn't feel the need to do anything but paint, or who doesn't feel they ever fit in wherever they go. There's something incredibly liberating about that. We have it driven into us that we have to be liked and we have to be accepted. We have to be liked, we have to be accepted, especially now with social media on a very large scale. And yes, I would love to be accepted or have the work accepted. And I do fight that all the time because I don't do what everybody else is doing. There is a kind of a gratification and almost a validation in knowing that there are people who have based their work on similar intents and for similar reasons or similar manners. So to keep this going, I'm going to have to lift the canvas up, and I'm going to have to move boards and stuff. I think her name is Mabel. I can't remember right at this moment. But to keep this young woman going and to keep me from sitting in a chair and vegging out again, I'm going to have to cut this short and go. But if you get a chance, it's PBS, I think it's Masters, it's something. But on PBS, Edward Hopper, you can Google the documentary. It's really interesting. And, give it a look-see, because it may get you thinking, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or to help you to define it, maybe in ways you haven't defined it before, or maybe for the first time you've defined what you're doing. Are you just painting pretty little pictures? Are you just painting puppies and palm trees? Or do you actually have intent? Do you actually have a reasoning for doing what you're doing? And I know for me that helped push me forward and to help me, snobby here, elevate the work, but also to help it evolve so that I'm not stuck painting as I was in, 10, 12, 15 years ago, dead fish and pictures of white people, like happy white people. It's watching a documentary like this might spark something in you. I don't know. Anywho, I'm gonna go. I gotta do this and figure out words. Words can be hard. So I'm Beck Lane. This is Catalyst and Company. If you'd like to help support Catalyst and Company, all the links are down below. Carrie, again, thank you all the time. I keep trying to figure out what can I send you as a thank you gift. And I come up short, but thank you very much. Thank you to Eric and everybody, Valerie, everybody. I appreciate all your support and all your help. And my phone is buzzing. And so I'm gonna go, and that's it. And ciao. Meow, meow. Who knows what's going on in my head? I'm a squirrel. That's it. Ciao. Meow, meow, meow. Boing.